Imagine ruling a country for 42 years, surviving coups, bombings, sanctions, revolutions, and Western leaders who alternated between shaking your hand and trying to kill you, only to spend your final hours hiding in a concrete drainage pipe while cell phones record the collapse of your entire myth. No palace, no speech, no heroic last stand. Just dust, blood, shouting, and a world watching in real time. This is the final 24 hours of Muammar Gaddafi. Welcome back to History versus Event, where history doesn't get polished, photoshopped, or politely rewritten. We tell it exactly how it went down. Before we dive into the chaos, hit subscribe and smash that notification bell, because if you like your history fast, brutal, and unfiltered, you're in the right place. October 20th, 2011. Libya. The man who once pitched himself as a revolutionary philosopher-king of Africa is on the run. Gaddafi had ruled Libya since 1969, longer than most of his enemies had been alive. He survived CIA plots, airstrikes, tribal revolts, and international isolation. He'd gone from global villain to awkward Western ally, and back again. But now, after 8 months of civil war, NATO air power, and a rebellion that refused to die, his world had collapsed. The coastal city of Sirte, Gaddafi's birthplace and symbolic stronghold, had been under siege for weeks. Street by street, block by block, it was being torn apart. Artillery fire gutted buildings. Entire neighborhoods were reduced to skeletons of concrete and twisted metal. The National Transitional Council forces, backed by relentless NATO airstrikes, were squeezing the city like a closing fist. Gaddafi was hiding in District 2, one of the last loyalist pockets. He wasn't in a palace. He wasn't commanding armies. He was moving between ordinary residential buildings, never staying long, sleeping wherever he could. The compound he used on the night of October 18th belonged to a family he still trusted. Modest. Cramped. A far cry from the extravagant tents and uniforms he once loved. By this point, everything had gone wrong. The uprising that began in February had spread like wildfire. Cities fell one after another. Officers defected. Loyalists vanished. Family members were killed or fled. NATO controlled the skies. Every time Gaddafi's forces gathered, they were bombed. His dreams of African unity and revolutionary glory had shrunk to one goal: survive another day. And yet, he was still defiant. Even as Sirte burned, Gaddafi recorded audio messages. He claimed Libyans still loved him. He called the rebels traitors and foreign puppets. He swore he would never leave Libya. Whether he believed it or was just performing for history is impossible to know, but the bravado never stopped. On the morning of October 20th, his security team delivered the bad news. The situation was collapsing fast. NTC forces were preparing a final push. NATO reconnaissance flights were increasing over District 2. Staying put meant certain capture, or death. They had to move. Gaddafi agreed, but without urgency. After decades of cheating death, maybe he thought this was just another close call he'd outlast. Or maybe denial is powerful when reality finally shows up armed. The escape plan was risky and desperate. A convoy of around 40 to 50 vehicles would attempt to break out of Sirte and head south toward the desert town of Jarif. Pickup trucks with mounted weapons. SUVs full of fighters. Vehicles packed with ammunition and supplies. And a few luxury cars carrying Gaddafi and his inner circle. At the center of it all was Mansour Dow, Gaddafi's longtime security chief. Dow had survived purges, paranoia, and palace intrigue for decades. If anyone symbolized how small Gaddafi's inner circle had become, it was him. Also in the convoy was Gaddafi's son Mutassim, Libya's former national security advisor, along with officials and commanders who had nowhere else to go. At around 8:30 a.m., the convoy rolled out of District 2. Gaddafi wore plain military-style clothes, no dramatic robes, no theatrical outfits. But he carried one familiar symbol, a golden pistol. Completely impractical. Totally symbolic. Peak Gaddafi. They moved through shattered streets, past burned-out buildings, and abandoned checkpoints. Civilians who remained watched silently. No cheers. No resistance. Just the quiet realization that something historic was happening. Then they reached Highway 1, the main coastal road. Fast, direct, and incredibly dangerous. From the air, the convoy would be visible, vulnerable, exposed. But the alternative, navigating ruined neighborhoods, was too slow. For a brief moment it worked. Kilometer after kilometer passed. No explosions. No jets screaming overhead. Maybe luck had finally returned. It hadn't. NATO was watching. A French reconnaissance aircraft spotted the convoy and tracked it. Coordinates were relayed. The call was made. Under NATO's mandate, this was a legitimate military target. American Predator drones armed with Hellfire missiles moved in. French jets followed. The first missile hit near the front of the convoy. A vehicle flipped. Debris scattered across the highway. Panic erupted instantly. Some drivers accelerated. Others slammed brakes. Some tried to turn around. Others ran. A second missile hit. Then another. Vehicles exploded. Ammunition cooked off. Smoke filled the air. The convoy disintegrated into chaos. Gaddafi's Toyota Land Cruiser was damaged but not destroyed. It veered off the highway into a wadi, a dry riverbed about 200 meters away. Survivors poured into the depression, using it as cover. For nearly an hour, airstrikes continued. Jets roared overhead. Missiles screamed down. Explosions echoed endlessly. Around 50 to 75 people survived the initial attack, including Gaddafi, Muammar Gaddafi, bodyguards, and fighters. They were trapped. With no way to fight aircraft and no clear escape, they regrouped. If they could hide until nightfall, maybe they could slip away. The group split up. Some stayed in the wadi. Others moved to abandoned buildings. Gaddafi and a small group crawled into a large drainage pipe beneath the highway. It was dark, confined, humiliating. The revolutionary leader of Libya lay hidden in a concrete tube, clutching a gold pistol, waiting. NTC fighters soon arrived. They followed smoke, debris, and reports of survivors. Many were from Misrata, a city brutalized by Gaddafi's forces earlier in the war. These men weren't neutral. They wanted blood. They searched methodically. Bodies, vehicles, buildings. Firefights broke out. Loyalists surrendered or were killed. Around 12:30 p.m., fighters reached the drainage pipe. How they found it is disputed. Tracks, tips from captured loyalists, or simple thoroughness. They shouted inside. No answer. They fired warning shots. Still nothing. Then a grenade was rolled in. After the blast, voices called out. One by one, men emerged dust-covered, bleeding, terrified. Then Gaddafi came out. Recognizable instantly. Bruised. Disoriented. Filthy. An old man stripped of myth. Fighters shouted. Phones came out. History went viral in seconds. He was dragged, shoved, struck. Some wanted him alive. Others wanted revenge. Muammar and Gaddafi were also captured. What followed was chaos. Videos show Gaddafi injured, surrounded, bleeding. No clear chain of command. No secure custody. Just armed men, adrenaline, and decades of hatred colliding. The prisoners were loaded into vehicles, supposedly to be taken to Misrata. They never arrived. Gunfire erupted. Accounts differ: crossfire, execution, panic. But the outcome is clear. Muammar Gaddafi was shot and killed. His son Muammar died shortly after. Mansour Gaddafi survived. An autopsy later revealed Gaddafi died from a close-range gunshot wound to the head. Not crossfire. Not stray fire. An execution. His body was taken to Misrata and displayed in a freezer at a shopping center. Crowds lined up to see him. Proof that the man who ruled their lives for 4 decades was finally gone. The world reacted with shock. Human rights groups condemned the killing. Governments asked uncomfortable questions. The NTC's promise of justice evaporated in the heat of revenge. Gaddafi's final 24 hours weren't heroic. They weren't cinematic. They were messy, brutal, and painfully human. A dictator who ruled by fear died in confusion. And history watched it happen on a phone screen. Thanks for watching.